Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the 6th turn of the Shadow Tech Goddess, subtitled Cat. Part 1, Four Sisters. Chapter 7, Bellathauser. This is the final chapter in Part 1. Part 2 will be told in a radically different place. We'll be leaving Cana for a while and going into the cosmos. We will see the story from a completely different point of view. I wonder whose point of view that's going to be. This is the last chapter. It's very short. I considered consolidating both readings into one, but I figured I'd stick to the format of one chapter at a time. So this is only 4 or 5 pages. This is going to be pretty short. And then we'll be done with the first part, and we will move on to the second. Last chapter, Wheel returned from the depths. She accused Cat of stealing, and she freed the Autocon. The Autocon then killed Walker and was going to kill Cat, but Cat trapped it within her central cubes, and it was destroyed. And now Cat is going down into the depths to pursue Wheel and try to rescue her sister, Bird. So here we go. Let's dig in, shall we? Chapter 7, Bellathauser. Cat tore out of the ruins, loping along as fast as she could, leaving a cloud of dust in her wake, focusing on the doors built into the ground, bright in the sunshine, decorated with intricate carvings that she had grudgingly come to appreciate. The doors laughed at her from the hillside, like a set of closed shutters hiding a world of horror. Here comes the little girl. Didn't scare her off the first or second time. She had never been so afraid in all her life. The doors, the depths, the things she had seen there, the demon in blue light. Her task was clear: save Bird. She had just lost Walker. She could not bear to lose Bird too. Her black claws, proven in battle, clattered on the stony ground as she dashed ahead, her tail flicking at her back. She cleared the bulk of the ruins, entering the grassy area leading up to the nearby mountains. The doors awaited, eagerly chattering. Cat forced herself ever closer, running on all fours at top speed. "Come to us," they seemed to say with their mismatched mouths. "We're waiting for you." Loping down the path, she passed a stand of vegetation where the statues held vigil. She glanced at them once and nearly skidded to a stop. The statues were gone from their pedestal, just as Walker described them days earlier. Where were they? There they were, up ahead, arranged in front of the doors, blocking her entry. They stood there with their arms raised in a threatening manner. Their bodies had been split apart right down the center and put back together again, unlike statues attached to each other. "Let us hug you," they seemed to say. Cat was determined. She had come to save Bird. She darted through the ranks of statues, hearing them utter horrid, ephemeral roars. There were the doors, built into the ground, ready to swallow her. "Come to us, child," they seemed to say. "Come and see what we have for you." Cat wrenched the doors open, rocking them on their hinges, revealing the steps going deep into the ground. She plunged down the stairs at a gallop, barely under control, her claws barely touching the steps, reaching the bottom in just a few clattering strides. Snatches of blue light blared through the archway. All of the lights and sounds she had witnessed prior to Wheel entering the depths were back, with even greater force, lighting the cave-like interior with an ominous shimmering wave that made the place seem unreal and phantasmal. Seeing the dazzling light shook Cat to her core, but she went through the arch anyway, entering the ruined chamber beyond. She was determined to save Bird, and if that meant treading in the dark and killing Wheel, then so be it. The air was dank in the chamber. It felt heavy, like being in the cistern deep under the water. The place was very wide, going off in either direction, as far as she could see, but it wasn't very high. If she stood up, and reached, she could easily touch the ceiling with the tips of her fingers. The ground was littered with bits of jagged masonry, both big and small. She heard the flapping of wings. Ahead was Wheel, standing near the column where Cat had previously seen the demon. Bird lay at her feet, her Shadowtech wings slumped to the floor. Blue lights had returned, the wall lit up in blue. Wheel beat her fists against the wall. "I have what you asked! Blood and sacrifice!" Wheel cried. "Now give me what you promised!" "Wheel!" Wheel turned. Her malice-filled face was lit up in blue light. "Let Bird go!" Cat said. Wheel grit her teeth. She formed a wheel of Shadowtech and attacked Bird with it, bringing it up and down over and over. "Blood and sacrifice for you!" Blood covered the stones. Blood dripped from Wheel's hand. "Bird!" Bird lay still on the ground. Cat was enraged. "I loved you, sister," she cried. "I saved you food and prayed the gods would protect you. And this is what you've done! Taking Bird's life for no reason. You claimed I stole from you. It is you who have stolen from me. Taken my sisters. Unleashed the Autocon. Lied to me about the paper. You will never see the light of day again." Wheel formed a second formidable disc of Shadowtech to match the first, sharp and deadly. Cat flexed her claws and showed them to Wheel. Wheel struck, launching the discs at Cat. She leapt aside, bouncing off the masonry and posts. Both misses. Cat too swift to be targeted. The Shadowtech disc dug into the stony floor with a spray of sparks. Forming more discs, Wheel threw them one after the other, seeking Cat's flesh. Dodging the disc like a tiger, Cat bounded forward and closed the distance. She sprang, coming to grips with Wheel, reaching with her claws, her feet slipping on Bird's still warm blood. They struggled, each trying to end the life of the other, their feet skidding on the gritty floor. Wheel was strong, like Walker had been. She got the upper hand and drove Cat into the ground. "Bellathauser, here is your sacrifice!" Wheel cried. "Come and take it and give me what you promised!" Cat put her hand around Wheel's throats and sank her claws in deep, drawing blood. Wheel screamed in searing agony. She lifted Cat's tiny body into the air and slammed her to the floor, trying to pry her hands free. "I am a black hat!" Wheel gurgled, blood coming out of her mouth. "Black hat!" Cat refused to let go. She sank her claws in farther. Hot blood pulsed from the wounds. Wheel grimaced in torment. As Cat ready to take Wheel's head off, there came a meaty ripping of flesh. Cat felt untold agony plow into her chest. Blood pulsed. Wheel had scored a hit with her discs on Cat's scar hand side, the disc biting deep into her flesh below her ribs, draped in sheets of dark blood. Wheel wrenched herself free of Cat's grip and delivered a crushing kick to Cat's face, sending her sprawling. Bleeding but still standing, Wheel dragged both Cat and Bird to the glowing wall and beat on the stones. "Bellathauser! Blood and souls for you," she gurgled, coughing up blood. "Blood and souls for Bellathauser!" This time Wheel received a response. Something appeared in the distance, a solitary figure, striding through the blue light, lean and diabolical. Soon it was just a step away on the other side of the door. The demon had returned. The demon reached through the wall and seized Bird. In jerking stages, it dragged her through to the other side. Cat, seeing a tangle of limbs and Shadowtech feathers mixed with floating drops of blood. "Give me the other one! I want the other one!" the demon shrieked, casting Bird aside. Wheel slammed Cat's face into the wall, hoping to push her through too. Cat struggled, but Wheel was too strong. She was held in place. The demon turned its attention to her. She could feel cold metal clamp onto her neck, slowly pulling her through the wall, just as it had done with Bird. Wheel pressed her foot against Cat's back. Cat's arm went through. In a final effort, Cat twisted about and wrapped her tail around Wheel's waist, holding fast. She drove her claws into the demon's metal arm. Lights flickered and went out. The demon seemed to go dead for a second. Cat didn't waste a moment. She pulled her arm back through, and before Wheel could react, ripped her throat out in one smooth motion, holding it warm in her hand. Blood pulsed in spurts, staining the walls. Eyes wide in shock, Wheel fell to the floor. In terrible pain, having lost a great deal of blood, Cat fell next to Wheel's twitching body, her tail going limp. Trembling, she stretched out her hand for Bird, but couldn't reach her mangled body. Instead, she found Wheel nearby and touched her head with her hands. She remembered the shape of her head, the contours of her face from their time together in the darkness at the Shade Church. "Tell me the story again," Wheel would often ask in the dark. Now she was dead. She might have passed out. She thought she might have died. She lay there for an indeterminate length of time, feeling Wheel's body grow cold, feeling the blood around her congeal. Figures in the dark leaned over her. She felt herself lifted into the air and carried back into the light. Before she knew what was happening, she was back in her habitation. Cat lay there, unable to move or speak, the darkness swirling around her. "Here she is," came a soft voice. "We must help her." Another voice, harder, more skeptical. This is the one you picked? She's mostly dead. Can you save her?" "Why should I? You willing to die for the terrible choices you've made?" "I am. Don't you turn your back on her." "I'm going to blank bits of her memory. We don't need all this unpleasantness today messing her up." Forms leaned over her. Hands touched her face. "It's time for our girl here to get to saving the universe." When will he come? Cat ruled the silent places in the mountains alone, never seeing a soul. She inhabited this great silent place alone, running the great open passes, unfettered, so much room and space for just Cat. She had dreams of sharing this place with others like herself, of laughing, of sharing food, of rolling in the grass. But they were just dreams. There was no one here but Cat. She had no idea as to where she might have come from or how long she had been there. Perhaps she had always been here, alone, in a place made for many. Every day she looked to the skies, waiting for the man to come, the man the gods promised to her. She often saw small vessels passing overhead, very high, above the clouds, heading beyond the mountains to points unknown. She often wondered where the vessels were going, perhaps to a place where there were many. She longed to see those places, to see other people like her. The gods told her to remain, and remain she would, for as long as it took. Today, though, seemed a different day. Today, Cat crouched on the wheelhouse stone. She watched as a small vessel came down from the sky to land in a clearing outside the ruins. It was a beautiful blue vessel, like the sky, like the waters. She watched a man get out, a man in a magnificent green garment. Her heart raced. Her dagger-like claws flexed and bit into the stone. Hurriedly, she put on the cumbersome harness over her shoulders and around her waist. Buried deep in her thoughts, a voice told her, "Hey, cutie pie, wear the harness when the man comes. You can thank me later." Her man had come at last. The gods be praised. Now it was time to abuse him. She was ready. And with that, we come to the end of Chapter 7, Bellathauser, and we come to the end of Part 1, The Four Sisters. Cat fought Wheel to the death. Cat was victorious, but grievously wounded. As she lay there half dead, she heard voices, some familiar, some nurturing, others unfamiliar and skeptical. And whatever happened before became a dream. She inhabited the ruins of Clovis alone, dreaming that she had once had companions, but they were just dreams. It was just Cat alone there, or so she thought. And as she watched, a blue vehicle descended from the sky and landed, and a man in green got out. Her man at last. But that's the end of that chapter. Now we move to part 2, Demons, Spirolata, and Covis. And the first chapter in part 2 is chapter 1, Mon's Eagle. We're going off Cana. We're going to a completely different place, possibly a completely different time. Our point of view is going to change from Cat to other people. We'll find out who those people are. And we will proceed this time next week with part 2, Demons, Spirolata, and Covis, chapter 1, Mon's Eagle. So, until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace.